Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen James. The channel that brings you your team every single day, guys. All the latest from Rangers. Obviously, please smash that sub. Help us to keep on growing. Well, look, we're going to talk about two players in particular that seem to be very much in the news at this moment in time. One is Lawrence Shankland, which I think is a very popular topic amongst Rangers fans at the moment, and there's a lot of Rangers fans would love to see Lawrence Shankland in the royal blue of Rangers. And another player who I think is very much dividing fan opinion at this moment in time, and that is Todd Cantwell. The manager has been speaking about Cantwell in an interview that he gave to Sky Sports Scotland. We'll talk a little bit about what Philippe Clement had to say as regards the enigma that is Todd Cantwell. Is it just me, or do we seem to have a lot of enigmas that play for us? Seem to attract them in Rangers at the moment. Now we seem to get a few enigmas. Anyway, we're going to talk first of all about Lawrence Shankland. I think, there's a lot of Rangers fans out there would love to see Lawrence Shankland obviously make the move from Edinburgh to Glasgow to pull on the blue jersey, to become a Rangers player. Now, look, we all know the fact of the matter is that Lawrence Shankland is a Blue Nose. We know that he loves Rangers. We know that he's a Rangers fan. And we know that he would obviously love to play for the club. Anybody who grows up as a Rangers fan, anyone who is a Glasgow Rangers fan knows that, at the end of the day, they want to play for the club. That's a dream, isn't it? That's a dream come true to run out at Ibrox, to be able to play in front of the 50-odd thousand at Ibrox is just a dream come true. Now, Shankland obviously has been at the centre of rumours since January. Now, there was obviously talk in January of allegedly signing Shankland. Never came off, as obviously led to, the reports that, as far as most fans were concerned, had we actually shown some commitment, had we actually, backed Philippe Clement and brought in Lawrence Shankland, that we would have gone on to win the league. I mean, that is firmly the belief of of a lot of fans, and I've got to say I do. So I do actually subscribe to that view that had we signed Lawrence Shankland in January, I genuinely feel that he's a player that would have come in, he would have scored goals, and he probably would have won us the league. I think last year's Celtic team weren't great. I think Rangers kind of handed them the title back after Celtic did their best to hand us the title. Appalling play from sort of March onwards, and combine that with the indecisiveness in front of goal of Cyril Dessers, and you've got a recipe for disaster. Now, at this moment in time, what is going on with the Shankland deal? I think that's what a lot of people want to know. Now, if Big Phil refused to be drawn on this in his press conference, he was questioned. He was asked about the whole Lawrence Shankland situation. He was asked, to comment on it. And as usual, Big Phil played the usual, I'm not talking about rumours. I'm not commenting on rumours. And to be fair, managers don't tend to talk about players out of the clubs. If they want to sign them, that's not the done thing. I've heard managers compliment players from other clubs, of course, but you don't tend to come out and say, I want this player, I want to sign this player. It's just not the done thing, because obviously that is likely to put the other clubs back up. Now, look, I've got no doubt that Shankland is a top striker, and would he come to Rangers? Yeah, I think he would. And if he did come to Rangers, would he make a huge difference to the club? Yes, of course he would. Of course he would. He'd score goals. Now, according to reports in the Daily Record today, and in a number of other news sources, not just the very unreliable Daily Record, Rangers are holding internal talks. This is the key thing now, not external, not with Hearts, but internal talks as regards Lawrence Shankland. Now, according to the reports that are out there, it seems to be a growing groundswell of opinion, amongst the media at this moment in time, that, Rangers, there are a group of board members, and there are a group of people within the Rangers football board who do want to see Lawrence Shankland at Ibrox. Big Phil apparently is, I think, is another one that, would obviously, see Shankland has been a very useful asset to have on the team. Now, according to the reports that are emanating from Ibrox at this moment in time, this is what the Record are alleging. Shankland is being discussed, and that Rangers have said there is money there if Big Phil wants to go and sign Shankland. However, if he wants to sign Shankland, he may have to sacrifice other targets. Now, it's unclear whether that be in other positions or whether that be other strikers. Obviously, Rangers have been linked with Albion Rahmani from Bucharest, but it's unclear whether obviously the signing Shankland would mean an end to any interest in Rachmani or any other strikers, or whether it means that this is kind of like one of the final deals, and if we sign Shankland, there's no money for anything else. I think it's probably the former. I think that if Rangers do move for Shankland, that will be the Rachmani deal actually properly dead and buried, despite obviously what's going on with that one with Neil Lennon, etc., etc. So, according to the reports as well, it is said that Hearts want $5 million for Shankland. Now, given the fact that Shankland is entering the final 12 months of his deal, it's highly unlikely that any club would actually pay $5 million for Shankland. It's false economy. At the end of the day, you wait 12 months or you wait 6 months. You wait 6 months, you can get him on a pre-contract, or you can probably even get him for a very cheap fee and say to Hearts, here you go, here's £500,000, take it or leave it. He walks for nothing in the summer, your decision. Or you wait to the summer, you get him for nothing, you pay him the sign-on fee, etc., etc. Now, the reports that are coming out of Ibrox at the moment suggest that £3 million is what Rangers are prepared to spend on Lawrence Shankland at this stage of his career. Now, £3 million, I think, would represent very good value to Hearts. I mean, I know the Hearts fans and Hearts board probably want a lot more than that, but you've got to deal in the world of realism, and like I said, the whole world, realism states that for a player with 12 months on his contract who has already turned down two contracts with you, he's not going to sign. He's not going to sign a new deal. If a team comes in and offers you $3 million, you should really be thinking about taking it, even if it is Rangers, a team you don't particularly like. You're unlikely to get the $5 million you want because, like I said, a club waits 6 months, they get him on a pre-contract, they then get him for free in the summer. So, Hearts have got to kind of put to aside their kind of, he's amazing, he's fantastic, we want all this money for him, he's a massive asset, we can get this money for, etc., etc. They've got to deal in the world of realism, and in the real world, you are not going to get £5 million for a player that has 12 months left on his contract. It's just utterly ludicrous, especially obviously, if Shankland doesn't sign a new deal, does well this season, he's going to be a very powerful asset, and he's going to look to obviously take a lot of that money himself next summer. So, look, Hearts have got to kind of, come back down to earth, deal with the real world situation, deal with the fact that, the $3 million would be a very reasonable fee. Do I think this is going to happen? I genuinely don't know. My personal opinion would be no. I still think that we have 3 strikers at the club at this moment in time, and Cyril Dessers, who is useless, Danilo, and the enigma, or the missing Hamza Igman, who is apparently doing one-to-one training and is about 4 weeks behind in terms of his fitness. I think the ethos very much is that Rangers only play one up front, so why would we need 4 strikers? So I do think there's a kind of, you've got to take this story that is coming out with a bit of a pinch of salt. The fact that this doesn't go away could inspire some element of truth, but by the same token, it could all be just the media playing to the fans, because the media know, as a fan base, the vast majority of Rangers fans would love to sign Lawrence Shankland. Given the fact that one of the things that Rangers did suffer from last season was a lack of clinicalness in front of goal, Shankland would bring that. 2 and 2 equals 5. Let's say Shankland's going to sign for Rangers. So, look, I think, that it is something that will be discussed. I think it is something that will be looked at. I personally think it's highly unlikely that Hearts would sell a Shankland before the game on Saturday. I genuinely think they wouldn't want to face him. I think that's something they wouldn't want to do. That if any move is going to come, it's probably going to come after the 3rd of August. So, that's where we're at. And that's the rumours, that's the stories that are going around. And I think until the transfer window actually finally closes on the 30th of August, and it is the 30th, not the 31st in Scotland, I think, this story is going to run and run. And until, it closes, it's going to keep going, especially if Shankland doesn't move and doesn't sign a new contract. I think that is the situation that we are in. Okay, so Big Phil gave an interview to Sky Sports Scotland, and he spoke about his commitment to, in his words, build the house. Something John Bennett obviously did talk about as well in his interview, that he talked about, Big Phil being all in line and all ready for the rebuild, all in and all ready to get this team ready and moving forward, and talked about Big Phil having a vision. So, Big Phil said, that he's ready. He's ready to take the steps. He's ready to move this forward. He's ready to build the foundations and build the house. Speaking to Sky Sports, Big Phil said, "We've made good steps in pre-season. In many ways, people don't see because they don't know the past or they don't know the details. We have 5 or 6 players who over the past few years have not had a full pre-season. They have now. That's a big step forward for them. We have players coming out of injury and have lost a lot of last season, like Danilo and Oscar Cortez. They are in a positive way and have done all the training we planned to do with them. We fix things, not sure, not everything, but you cannot do that in 5 weeks. That's impossible. We've almost didn't have any injuries in pre-season. We had an unlucky one with Nicholas Raskin with a bad tackle. There's a few minor muscle things, but nothing major, which is a big step forward. But, I agree with that one. Is a huge step forward, given all the Rangers injuries, given all the muscle injuries we've had in the past, the wear and tear injuries. That is a major step forward to come out with no serious injuries other than the Raskin one, which, as Big Phil said, is kind of, down to that awful tackle by the Ajax player. In terms of, talking about making steps forward and things like that, he's right from one aspect. We don't see what happens at training. We don't see, where the players were at the start of this preseason to where they are now. We don't see the progress that's kind of been made. That's more what the coaches see every day. Big Phil went on to say, we have new players coming in with experience. Of course, they need to learn more and get the team better. We are still very busy in the transfer market. I'm convinced Tierney will be important signing, and the recruitment team has been working hard with us and the board. Everybody is aligned about what to do, but the when you never have control over. I'm convinced we can have a good start to the season. I will put all my effort on that. Rangers win the title. That is what we need to do. We know the Celtic. They have a small renovation to do with a few details, and they can build on their core. We have a big rebuild. So let's first make a good foundation of this rebuild of our house, and let us build our house in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. Then it will be much stronger than it was in the past 6 months. So it's clear that Big Phil wants to rebuild, that he's here for the long term. It's clear that he needs time. He needs time to get this right. And as John Bennett said in his interview today, this isn't a one transfer window job. This isn't something that, that is going to be an instant fix. It's going to take time to get this right, time to rebuild this, time to put Rangers back on a footing that, puts them into position to really compete on a consistent basis with Celtic. As a club, we have made some awful decisions over the past 2 to 3 years that have set this club back years and have really put this club in a difficult position in terms of contracts, signings, revenue streams, incomes, player transfers. Have all put this club in a very bad position. As John Bennett said in his interview, £10.5 million of losses, pre-trading model. So, and those losses need to be brought under control, which is right, at the end of the day. But, Big Phil, he seems to be here. He seems to have a mission. He seems to have a desire to get this right, to rebuild this team, to put this team back where it belongs. It's just a matter of time. And I think, is he going to get that time? Is Big Phil going to get, the patience he needs, the backing he needs to move the club forward? And that's a big, huge question. Now, one of the other things he spoke about in his interview with Sky Sports Scotland was the future of Todd Cantwell. Now, I know that a lot of fans have really turned on Todd since the revelation came out that he's asked for a move. He doesn't want to be at the club anymore, that he wants to move on. A lot of fans have, been quite cruel, actually, in the criticism they've given Todd. Now, I agree. If you come out and you say you want to go, then let them go. We want volunteers, not hostages, as Pittsburgh Steelers coach Mike Tomlin once famously said. Cantwell, if he doesn't want to be here, get rid. I think that's the state. But Big Phil came out and spoke about the whole Cantwell situation, and he spoke about, where they were up to, in terms of the fact that he had spoken at that press conference, coming back in to the press conference and saying that, Todd had asked to leave, that he wanted to go, etc., etc. Now, Big Phil talked about this in this interview that he gave, as regards Todd Cantwell. He said he was asked, is there no way for Todd Cantwell to return if Todd changes his mind and says he wants to come back, he wants to have an effect on the team, he wants to be part of the squad again. The manager said, I kept the door open all these weeks because it's already a while ago when he came the first time with that. But as long as a player is here and we believe in his qualities, the door is always open. But of course, we need to focus on the guys who are totally with our minds in the club and to getting the results in the next couple of weeks. So we will see what will happen. So it's quite clear that Big Phil has not closed the door on Todd, that if Todd did change his mind, he can return to the squad. I think Big Phil is 100% right with what he says in terms of the fact that he talks about the fact we need to focus solely on the players that want to be here, the players that have their minds set on this club, the players that actually want to go out and play for Rangers. You know, Todd will need to undergo a major change of, a major change of thought, a major change of ethos if he really does want to stay. And I think if he does come out and say that he wants to stay, that he's going to have a hell of a job on his hands to win certain fans around who have, certainly turned against him since this revelation came out that he wants to leave. Look, I think that there comes a time, doesn't there, when a player can kind of move on, needs to move on. It's like a relationship. When a relationship is dead, you need to move on from it and just admit that it's over and start again somewhere else, or if that's on your own or with someone else, isn't it? And I think in this case, I think, as much as I love Todd Cantwell, as much as I think he's a very talented player, and there is, I agree with Derek Ferguson, a very talented player in there, he just kind of lacks the consistency for me. But, I think there is a time when it is time to move on. And I think Todd and Rangers and Todd and Phil have kind of fallen out of love, and it'll be very difficult for them to fall back in love again, in effect. So, personally speaking, I think it's time for him to move on. I think, Big Phil has kind of got to say what he said. If the journo asks him, is there any way back for Todd? Can he come back if he changes his mind? If he came around and said, no way, the boy's done, he's finished at the club, that sort of, can continue to affect how Todd is around the dressing room. And also, it kind of leads other clubs to think, well, we can come in and get him for very little because Rangers don't want him, and they genuinely don't want him, and there's no way back for him. Whereas at least now, knowing that Rangers would take him back, they would allow him to play again, it, leads clubs to think, well, shit, he can actually go back. So if we do really want him, we do need to perhaps put in a reasonably sized bid to attract him, and attract the club to part ways with him. So I think it's a very, very wise answer by Phil Clement. I think he's playing the game. He's clearly preparing the market, preparing the fans, preparing Todd, and getting us to a position where Rangers can cash in on Todd Cantwell and get a decent fee for the player. Guys, look, let me know what you think of the stories we've covered in the video this morning, this afternoon, or this evening. Depends, obviously, when you've picked it up. We're having a podcast this morning at 10:30, talking through Rangers' squad depth, their strength in depth. Looking at it now, we'll look through that. We've also got a podcast tonight as well, so please come and join us for both of those. Guys, thank you so much for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. Thank you for your phenomenal support over the last few weeks, months, years, 18 months. I think it is now, 18 months. It's been phenomenal. As always, on the way out, if you can do me two favors. One, smash the like. Number two, remember always, we are the people.